Welcome back, or welcome for the first time, to Docilely, where stories drift like smoke, and God speaks softly before sleep. Wherever you are, you've made it through the day. So now, let your body rest. Pull the blanket closer. Let your shoulders sink into the bed. Feel the quiet. Maybe your fan is on, or the sound of soft rain in the background. Let it hold you. Now take a deep breath, in and out. Tonight we return to the age of gods and monsters. But this is not the story of a throne or a war in the sky. This is the story of a boy, born of a god, who would suffer like a man. This is the journey of Hercules, known to many as Hercules, a tale of rage, redemption, and the path between mortality and divinity. Long before he was a god, before songs were sung or statues raised, he was simply a child. But this child was not like others. His father was Zeus, the king of the heavens, a god cloaked in thunder and crowned in lightning. His mother, Alcmena, was mortal, a noble woman, wise and strong of heart, descended from Perseus himself. The union was not born of love, it was born of deception. Zeus came to her in disguise, not as a stranger, but as her own husband. He stretched the night to last 3 days, and from that night a child was conceived. A child that would shake the very order of gods and men. When Hera, Zeus's wife and queen of Olympus, discovered the betrayal, her fury burned brighter than the sun. She could not harm Zeus, his power was beyond even her reach. So, as always, she turned her wrath to the innocent. Still in Alcmene's womb, the child became the target of divine sabotage. Hera sent her daughter Eileithyia, goddess of childbirth, to stall the delivery. Alcmena screamed in pain for days, trapped between life and death, the child refusing to come forth. But the gods are not all cruel. Alcmena's servant, an old clever woman named Galanthis, sensed the plot. She tricked the goddess with a lie. The child is born. Startled, Eileithyia jumped, and her spell broke. In that moment, Heracles entered the world, crying, alive, a baby, but already marked by Olympus. He was named Heracles, meaning glory of Hera, a cruel irony, for Hera would spend years trying to erase him from existence. Even as an infant, the child's strength was unnatural. One night, Hera sent 2 serpents into his cradle, great coiling things with fangs like ivory daggers. The nursery was silent, but a few moments later, a scream rang out, not from Heracles, but from the maid who found him. He was giggling, holding a serpent in each hand, their bodies crushed limp, lifeless. Alcmena wept with relief. Amphitryon, her husband, trembled in awe. They knew then, this child would never have peace, but perhaps he would survive anything. As Heracles grew, so did the rumours. Whispers of his strength reached distant kingdoms. Some feared him, some sought to use him. He was sent away to train, tutored by the finest minds and warriors. Autolycus, the thief and trickster, Eumolpus, the bard, Linus, the musician, who once struck the boy for playing poorly, only to be struck back, fatally. Heracles mourned the teacher, but punishment followed. He was sent to tend cattle in the hills, away from cities and songs. There he learned the land, the rhythms of earth and wind. He hunted, he worked, and in time he became a man, towering, broad-shouldered, eyes like storm clouds, calm but hiding thunder. The day he returned, all who saw him stepped aside. He was not like others. Men twice his age struggled to match his strength, but he did not boast. He'd been shaped by sorrow, not pride. In the city of Thebes, Heracles came to the aid of its people, defending them from invaders, breaking sieges with bare hands. As a reward, he was offered marriage to Megara, a noble woman of grace and wisdom. He loved her, and she bore him children. For a time, there was peace, a family, a quiet life, but Hera still watched, and hatred never sleeps. She struck again, not with serpents, but with madness. One morning Heracles awoke, and the world felt wrong. He looked at his wife, and did not recognize her. His children became shadows. His mind twisted, a fog of rage and illusion. By nightfall it was done. When he came to his senses, blood stained the earth. Megara lay still. So did their children. His screams shook the stones. He had been robbed of reason, used as a weapon against the ones he loved most. And now he was broken. He fled the city. No glory remained. No songs were sung. He walked alone through rain and dust, seeking no shelter, speaking no words. Eventually, he reached the temple at Delphi. There, the oracle, voice of Apollo, received him. She did not flinch. She saw the truth behind the blood. "You seek atonement," she said. "Then serve your punishment. Go to King Eurystheus of Tiryns. Do all that he commands. 12 tasks, 12 burdens, and perhaps, when they are done, you will be free." Heracles bowed, not as a warrior, but as a man with nothing left to lose. The name Heracles meant glory of Hera, but there was no glory in what came next. He had built a life in Thebes, defender of the city, husband to Megara, father to children who laughed like wind through olive trees. For a time the gods were quiet. Even Hera's wrath, it seemed, had grown tired. But hate never sleeps, and one day madness crept into Heracles' mind, like smoke in the dark. He woke with fire in his heart and thunder in his skull. The world looked twisted, his wife a stranger, his children ghosts. Voices swarmed his ears, the shadows moved. He reached for his club, and the gods watched in silence. When the madness passed, Heracles stood in the centre of his home, his hands slick with blood. Megara gone, their children still and cold, the city whispered. No one dared speak to him. No one dared stop him as he walked, broken, from the gates of Thebes. He wandered, for days, weeks, months, through fields and forests, caves and deserts. No destination, no purpose. Just a weight in his chest that no god could lift. Even Zeus, his father, said nothing. At last Heracles came to the temple of Delphi, where the voice of Apollo spoke through the oracle. He knelt in ashes. "I've killed my own blood," he said. "There is no atonement for that." But the oracle replied, "Then earn your place among men again. Go to King Eurystheus of Tiryns. Serve him. Bear the labours he gives you. Not 1, not 2, but 12. If you survive, perhaps the gods will speak your name without shame." Heracles bowed. He had nothing left to lose. Tiryns was a city of stone, but King Eurystheus was softer than clay. Jealous of Heracles, resentful of his divine blood, he seized the chance to humiliate him. 12 labours, the king said with a smirk, each one impossible, each one earned in pain. Heracles said nothing. He was not here for vengeance, he was here for penance. The first task took him to the hills of Nemea, where a lion had turned forest into graveyard. It was no ordinary beast. Its golden hide could not be pierced by arrow, sword, or spear. Its roar shook trees from the roots. Its eyes gleamed like fire. Hunters had tried. Armies had tried. None returned. Heracles entered the forest alone. For days he tracked the lion's prints. Broken branches, shattered bones, silence. And then a shadow moved between the trees. The lion leapt. a blur of gold and muscle. Hercules didn't flinch. He met the beast with open arms. They crashed to the ground. The lion's claws tore through his skin, but Hercules held on. Arms locked around its throat. No blade, no trick, just strength and will. When it was over, the forest was quiet again. He skinned the lion with its own claw, wrapped the hide over his shoulders. It would become his cloak, his armour, his myth, but there was no time to rest. The second labour came swiftly, the slaying of the Lernaean Hydra, a serpent with 9 heads, and for every head cut off, 2 more would grow. It lived in the swamp of Lerna, a place where the ground breathed poison and light refused to stay. Heracles covered his mouth with cloth, waded through the stench, and found the beast. It hissed like boiling water. Heads writhed, fangs dripped with venom. He fought with sword and fire, but it was not enough. Each head he severed grew back twice as strong. Until he remembered, he wasn't alone. His nephew Iolaus stood nearby, loyal, brave, young. Heracles called to him, "Bring the fire." Together they worked. Heracles struck the heads, and Iolaus burned the necks before they could regrow. Finally, only the immortal head remained. Heracles crushed it beneath a boulder, and dipped his arrows in the Hydra's blood, poisonous even to gods. When he returned, King Eurystheus frowned. "That labour doesn't count," he said. "You had help." Heracles didn't argue. This was not about approval. It was about redemption, and the path had only just begun. The next labour seemed almost peaceful at first glance. Labour 3, the Ceryneian hind, a golden deer with antlers like polished ivory, sacred to Artemis, the goddess of the wild. It moved faster than wind, drank from still pools, and left no prints behind. Heracles was not meant to kill it, only capture it. A test not of strength, but patience. For nearly a year, he tracked the creature. He followed its trail through forests lit by moonlight, across mountains kissed by snow, and into valleys no map dared mark. He did not rush, he did not rage. When he finally caught the hind, it was not with brute force but quiet respect. He knelt beside it as it drank, and slipped a net gently over its antlers. It struggled, then stopped. He spoke to it in a whisper. "I won't harm you, but I must bring you back." Even the gods took notice. Artemis herself appeared in a shimmer of starlight. "That creature is mine," she said. Heracles bowed. "Then let it return to you. But first, I must show the king that I did not fail." Artemis looked into his heart, and saw no deceit. She allowed it. For once a labour ended without blood, but peace does not last in tales of gods. Labour 4, the Erymanthian boar, a beast of the mountains, massive, tusked and wild-eyed. It ravaged fields, and tore through villages, leaving behind shattered trees and scattered bones. Heracles climbed into the highlands, snow crunching beneath his feet. He found it during a storm. The wind howled. The boar charged, faster than it looked. Its tusks gleamed. Heracles sidestepped the first rush, then wrestled it into the snow, not with anger, but control. He bound its legs and dragged it down the mountain. When he reached Eurystheus's palace, the cowardly king shrieked and hid in a bronze jar. The sight of Heracles, holding the beast alive, was more than he could bear. Heracles said nothing. He let the king tremble and turned to leave. But it was the 5th labour that tested him in a way nothing else had. The Augean stables. King Augeas had more cattle than any man alive, thousands, and the stables had not been cleaned in years. The filth was legendary, the stench carried for miles. Eurystheus thought it a perfect insult. Let the son of Zeus shovel manure, let him crawl. But Heracles did not rage. He studied the land, the position of the stables, the flow of nearby rivers. Then with a few well-placed strikes, he redirected the rivers themselves, cutting channels through stone. Water roared through the filth, swept it all away in a single day. A labour, yes, but also an act of engineering, of vision. But when he returned, Eurystheus again sneered. "You used the rivers. That wasn't labour, that was trickery." The king struck it from the list. Heracles clenched his fists, but still he endured. This was not about tally marks. It was about the road, the long one that might one day lead to peace. That night, Heracles sat beside a fire outside the city, his lion skin draped over one shoulder, his hands stained with soil and snow. He looked into the flames, not for comfort, but for answers. Is this the path to redemption, he wondered, or just punishment dressed as purpose? The stars offered no reply, but far off unseen, Prometheus watched. The firebringer, still chained, but not for long. Before we continue, let's come back to your body. Gently soften your gaze, or close your eyes if you haven't already. Unclench your jaw, drop your shoulders, feel the weight of your body, settling deeper into the bed. The fabric beneath you, the quiet hum of the rain, the warmth from your blanket. Take a slow breath in and let it go. Again, in and out. There's nothing to solve, no need to stay awake. Just let the story guide you. Heracles still walks his path, and will walk beside him, one quiet step at a time. The fires of Heracles' labours still burned behind him, but the road ahead would only grow stranger. For his sixth task, Eurystheus sent him to a dark, forgotten land, the swamp of Stymphalos. There the trees had stopped singing, the sky stayed grey, and the waters reeked of rot. The cause, a flock of monstrous birds with bronze feathers and sharpened beaks, creatures that fed on men and tore flesh from bone. No army would go near them. But Heracles went alone. He crept to the edge of the marsh, his feet sinking into the cold black mud. The birds stirred, thousands of them, wings clicking like swords being drawn, eyes gleaming red. One flew at him. Heracles ducked just in time. Its feathers buried themselves into the tree behind him, like thrown knives. He knew then his arrows wouldn't be enough. This was not a battle of brawn, but of sound. He reached into his satchel and pulled out a gift from Athena, a pair of enchanted bronze crotala, rattles forged by Hephaestus himself. He banged them together. The noise was sharp, piercing. The air trembled. The birds shrieked in confusion, took flight in a wild panic. And Heracles fired, arrow after arrow, guided by calm hands and keen eyes. He brought them down, one after another, until the sky grew still. The swamp exhaled, and the trees began to sing again. For the seventh labour, Heracles travelled to the island of Crete. There a great bull, gifted once by Poseidon, now twisted by madness, ran wild. It snorted fire, shattered stone with its hooves. No wall could hold it, no man could tame it. But Heracles did not come to tame. He waited for the right moment, then charged. The bull roared. Their bodies crashed like boulders. Heracles wrestled it to the ground, his hands gripping horn and muscle. He did not strike, he held, until the beast finally stilled beneath him. He led it back, alive and breathing, a symbol not of conquest, but control. But the labours were beginning to blur, blood and travel. roars and silence, Heracles barely rested. He slept with one eye open. His dreams were filled with riddles and fire. The eighth labour led him north, to Thrace, to a king named Diomedes, who fed his horses the flesh of men. The mares of Diomedes were monstrous, snapping, screeching, bound by iron chains. Heracles confronted the king. There were no games, no warnings. They fought, steel against muscle, rage against justice. Diomedes fell, and Heracles dragged his body to the horses, letting them taste the cruelty they had been taught. Only then did the mares calm. He led them away, not as beasts of war, but animals finally freed from madness. But not all trials were soaked in blood. His ninth labour sent him across the sea, to the land of the Amazons, warrior women who feared no man. Their queen Hippolyta wore a girdle gifted by Ares, god of war. Heracles was sent to take it, but when he arrived, he did not raise his sword. He spoke, and she listened. The stories of Heracles had reached even here, and Hippolyta saw in him not a brute, but a burdened soul. She agreed to give him the girdle freely. No blood, no challenge, but Hera would not allow peace. She spread rumours among the Amazons that Heracles had come to kill their queen. The camp erupted in chaos. Blades flashed, cries rang out. Heracles tried to stop it, but the battle had begun. When it ended, Hippolyta lay dead. Her girdle clutched in Heracles' hands. He stood in silence. It had been a gift, turned into a conquest, and it haunted him. He returned to Eurystheus with the girdle. The king nodded with bored approval, but Heracles said nothing. He had begun to wonder, were these labours cleansing him of sin, or carving new scars into his soul? He didn't know. He only knew that 3 labours remained. And the road ahead led to the edge of the world. There are places so far from light, so distant from the world of men, that even the gods speak of them in whispers. This is where Heracles was sent next, to the ends of the earth, to the realm where the sun sets and monsters are born. Labour 10. The Cattle of Geryon. Geryon was not one man, but 3, a giant with 3 torsos, 3 heads, and a single soul. He ruled an island beyond the horizon, where red cattle grazed in guarded fields, watched over by a 2-headed dog named Orthrus, and a giant herdsman named Eurytion. To reach them, Heracles would need to cross a scorching desert. He wandered beneath the burning sun, with no shade, no water, no end in sight. The heat was maddening, so great in fact that Heracles lifted his bow and aimed an arrow at the sky. "Either give me mercy," he said, "or give me a fight." Zeus, watching from Olympus, smiled and sent a gentle wind. Heracles continued on. To cross the sea, he built a boat from the golden cup of Helios, the sun god. A gift, or perhaps a challenge, from one who admired strength. He sailed alone, reaching the island where Geryon ruled. There Orthrus came first, fangs bared, both heads snarling. Heracles struck once, the beast fell. Eurytion came next, but Heracles didn't hesitate. The herdsman joined the earth beside his beast. Finally, Geryon. All 3 bodies stood tall against the skyline, a monster of legend. They fought as one, swords clashing, feet thundering the ground. But Heracles was unrelenting. He loosed an arrow tipped with the Hydra's venom. It pierced all 3 hearts, and Geryon fell, his island quiet at last. Heracles gathered the cattle and began the long journey home. It should have ended there, but the world is never so simple. On his way back he passed through Italy, where he was challenged by the sons of Poseidon, and then into Thrace, where a man named Cacus tried to steal the cattle. Hercules hunted him into a cave and crushed him beneath its collapsing roof. He did not stop, not for sleep, not for praise. When he returned, Eurystheus counted the cattle and said nothing. He was running out of ways to diminish the hero. But Hera was not finished. For the 11th labour, Heracles was sent to retrieve the golden apples of the Hesperides, fruit that grew in a hidden grove, guarded by nymphs of the west and a massive coiled dragon, Ladon, who never slept. But first Heracles had to find the way, and in that search he wandered far enough to meet a titan, Atlas, the one who held up the sky. Bound by punishment, Atlas stood on the edge of the world, shoulders straining under the heavens. Heracles approached him and said, "I seek the golden apples." Atlas laughed. "Then let me rest, and you take the sky." Without hesitation, Heracles stepped beneath the burden. The sky fell on his shoulders, a crushing silence he had never felt before. Atlas left, retrieved the apples with ease, for they were his daughter's gift to the gods. But when he returned, he smiled. "I think I'll take them to the king myself," Atlas said. "You can hold the sky forever." Heracles didn't move, didn't flinch. "Very well," he said, "but could you take it back for just a moment, so I can adjust my cloak?" Atlas grunted, lifted the sky once more, and Heracles stepped away, apples in hand. He returned to Eurystheus, who now trembled when Heracles entered the room. But the king did not speak of honour, did not offer thanks. He simply turned his head. 11 labours done, but one remained, and it was the most dangerous of all. 12 labours, 11 complete, and now the 12th, the most dangerous, the most symbolic, a journey no hero had ever returned from, to descend into the underworld and bring back Cerberus, the 3-headed hound of Hades. The king, Eurystheus, had grown quiet. His fear of Heracles had become worship, twisted into bitterness. He no longer mocked the labours, he survived them. And perhaps deep down, he hoped this 12th trial would end the hero for good. To enter the land of the dead, Heracles first travelled to the southernmost caves of Greece, where ancient myths said the veil between worlds was thin. The air there tasted like iron. The wind carried no scent, only silence and dust. He carried no torch. He did not flinch when the darkness swallowed him whole. The world beneath the world was unlike anything he had seen. No light, no colour, only shapes and echoes. He passed through the river Styx, ferried by the skeletal hand of Charon, who said nothing, but bowed his head. Even the dead knew this soul. He passed the fields of the forgotten and those who would never rest. Shades wandered, some whispering, some wailing. Heracles did not speak to them. He did not ask for forgiveness. He walked as one of them. Until he reached the gates, Cerberus waited, 3 heads, each one snarling, each one larger than a lion. Its fur was matted with ash, its eyes red as molten stone. Chains coiled around its neck like serpents. It stood and growled, but did not charge. Heracles stepped forward slowly. He did not raise his club. He did not draw his bow. He spoke. "I don't come to steal, I come to ask." Cerberus growled louder. But then something in Heracles shifted. He dropped to one knee, held out his hand, open, unarmed. "Let me borrow you," he whispered, "just long enough to show them what I've survived." And to the shock of all who watched, Cerberus allowed it. The journey back was harder than the descent. Even with Cerberus at his side, the weight of the underworld clung to Heracles' skin like damp stone. But he returned. He led the beast through the halls of Eurystheus' palace. The king screamed and dove into a storage jar. The hound stood silently beside Hercules, powerful but still. Then without a word, Hercules turned and returned Cerberus to the dark, unchained, unharmed, and unbroken. The labours were over. 12 impossible tasks. Each one survived, each one overcome. But no voice called down from Olympus. No god appeared to lift the burden from his shoulders. Heracles walked away, alone. And yet, something had changed. He was no longer just a man, not just a son of Zeus. He was a bridge between death and life, between mortal and divine. He had descended and risen, and the world felt different now, quieter, like something was waiting, a final act, a final test, not one given by kings, not one commanded by gods, but by fate itself. Take a moment to settle again. Let your arms fall where they want. Let your eyes rest, or close if they haven't already. Soften your jaw. Feel the weight of your body, held safely by the bed beneath you. Breathe in slowly and let it out. Easy. We've come a long way with Heracles, through blood, through shadow, all the way into the underworld. And now the road brings us to a familiar figure, the one we met in our very first story, Prometheus, the firebringer, the chained one. Let your breath guide you back to that memory, and get ready, because Heracles is about to walk where few dare to tread, and change not just his fate, but the fate of the Titan who gave mankind its first light. After the 12 labours, Heracles walked not in triumph, but in silence. The world called him a hero, but he felt like a man still walking through smoke. He had returned from the underworld, faced death, faced the divine, and now he wandered east, toward the edge of the world, toward a wind that howled with ancient sorrow. There were whispers in the mountains, a story older than Olympus, of a Titan chained to stone, his body pierced, his flesh torn anew each day. Heracles followed the trail, through jagged cliffs, through skies heavy with ash and thunder, and there he saw him. High on a barren peak, Prometheus hung motionless against the rock, his arms stretched wide, his skin scarred with ages of torment. Above him circled a massive eagle, its wings black as midnight, its eyes burning gold. It screeched, diving toward the Titan's chest, but Heracles was faster. He raised his bow. A single arrow, dipped in Hydra's poison, cut the sky in half. The eagle cried once, then fell. Its body vanished into the canyon below. Prometheus opened his eyes. At first, why, he said nothing. Then with a voice that had not been used for centuries, he whispered, "You are the son of Zeus." Heracles nodded. "And you are the one they chained for giving fire to men." Prometheus looked away. They feared what man might become. Heracles approached. He placed his hands on the ancient chains. Adamantine links forged by gods, coiled with divine punishment. And with a great pull, they snapped. The mountain groaned. The sky trembled. Prometheus fell forward, but Heracles caught him. There had once been a prophecy that only a son of Zeus could set the firebringer free, and now it had come to pass. They did not speak much after. Prometheus, weak but alive, rested by the fire Heracles built that night, and Heracles sat beside him, watching the flames rise, not like a soldier, not like a god, just as a man. When morning came, Prometheus stood. He touched Heracles' shoulder and said, "I gave man fire, but you gave me hope." Then he turned and walked into the rising sun. Heracles stayed a while, alone on the mountain. He looked at the arrow that had fallen the eagle. The same hands that had held his club had freed a god. It was then he understood. His strength was never about conquest. It was never meant for glory. It was meant for moments like this, to break chains, to lift burdens, to change fate, not just for himself, but for others. He descended the mountain not as a warrior, but as something else entirely. And far away the gods watched, even Hera, and for the first time she said nothing, because some stories are no longer theirs to control. After the labours, after the underworld, and after freeing the Firebringer, Hercules returned to the world of men. But something had changed, not in the heavens, not in the land, but in him. He had fought monsters, and now he was left to face the quiet. He wandered for years, helping kings, fighting wars, carving his name into stone and story. But no battle struck him harder than the one waiting in his own home. In time, Hercules married again. A woman named Deianira, gentle, kind, and brave in a different way than he was. She loved him without fear, and he softened in her presence. For a while, there was peace, but the gods are never far behind, especially Nessus. Nessus was a centaur, half man, half horse, with a voice like honey and a mind like rot. While helping Hercules and Deianira cross a river, Nessus waited until Hercules was distracted. He tried to take her, to steal her away. Hercules, from the far bank, saw it happen. He drew his bow and fired. The arrow struck Nessus through the chest, a clean shot poisoned with Hydra's venom. The centaur collapsed, but before he died he smiled and whispered into Deianira's ear, "Take my blood. It will keep his love from wandering." And in her fear, she believed him. Years passed. Hercules grew older, wiser maybe, but never slower. He fought again, and again, and again, always victorious. But one day, as he prepared for a festival, Deianira sent him a robe, a gift, soaked in the blood of Nessus. She believed it would keep his heart loyal. Instead, it nearly stopped it. He put it on. At first, nothing. Then the pain came, like fire beneath the skin, like teeth sinking into bone. He tried to tear the robe away, but it clung to him, fused to his flesh. The poison burned, ate, consumed. He screamed. The hero of Olympus, brought low by trust. When he learned what Deianira had done, he did not curse her. He did not rage. He understood. She had been tricked, just as he had been used so many times before. But he also knew he could not survive this. Hercules climbed a mountain, high above the world he had bled for. He gathered wood, built his own funeral pyre, and when no one would light it, he begged a passing friend, "Please end it with fire, not silence." The flames rose, so did the smoke, and then the sky split. A bolt of lightning descended from Olympus, Zeus himself reaching down to claim his son. From the fire Hercules was lifted, not his body that had burned, but his soul, his truth. He arrived at Olympus not as a guest, but as one of them, immortal, ascended, given a place among the stars and a throne among the gods. Even Hera, his greatest enemy, relented. She welcomed him, and even gave him her daughter Hebe as his eternal bride. The feud was over, and Hercules was no longer torn between two worlds. But even in divinity, he did not forget the path that brought him there. He did not forget the labours, the losses, the weight of every step. And when people told stories about him, some loud, some wrong, some wrapped in glory, he smiled quietly, because only he knew that the real strength was never in the lion's skin, or the poisoned arrows, or the roar of victory. It was in rising again, after the world tried to keep him down. They say the gods forget, that mortals rise, burn brightly, and fade into myth, while Olympus remains unchanged. But that is not true, because some stories echo forever, and among them is the story of Hercules. He became a god, yes, crowned in light, married to Hebe, goddess of youth, welcomed even by Hera, whose hatred once shaped his fate. On Olympus, he stood beside his father, Zeus, not as a prince, but as a peer. But power never softened him. He did not wear gold. He wore the lion's skin still. He did not speak of war. He watched the world, the villages, the people, the small moments he had once walked among. Sometimes when a traveller lit a campfire in the hills, they said the flames bent gently, as if bowing to a presence they couldn't see. Sometimes when a farmer lifted a heavy stone, a sudden breeze would ease the burden. Sometimes when someone endured more than they thought they could, they felt him, not as a god but as someone who understood. Because Hercules never stopped being human. He was the son of thunder, but also the son of grief. He had killed, he had suffered, he had fallen to madness and crawled his way back to light. He had stood alone when no one else would. He had held the sky when no one else could, and that's what made him a legend. Not strength without cost, but strength that comes through pain. The stars above still hold his name. The constellation Hercules, not as a throne, not as a crown, but as a reminder. That power means nothing without purpose, that glory fades, but compassion does not. And so if tonight, as you lie here, you feel the world pressing too hard, too fast, too much, remember this. Even the strongest hands once trembled. Even the loudest names were once whispers. And even a god was once a man just trying to make things right. Sleep now. Let the stars tell the rest. And let Hercules, the mortal god, watch over your dreams. The story is complete. Hercules has walked his path, faced the weight of the world, and laid it down. And now, so can you. Wherever you are, however your day has felt, you've made it to this moment. So take a slow, full breath in and let it go. Let your eyes soften. Let your shoulders fall. Let the muscles in your hands release. You don't have to carry anything right now. Not the weight of work, not the past, not the plans for tomorrow. Just this moment. Feel the bed beneath you, the blanket gentle against your skin, the air quiet and soft. Imagine the stars above you, the same stars that hold the story of Hercules, not as gods to worship, but as reminders. That strength lives in silence too. That rest is not weakness, and that you, like every hero before you, deserve to stop. Just breathe. Let the story fade. Let the night hold you. The fire is low. The sky is calm. You are safe. You are home. Sleep well.